Good morning, students. Last lesson we got studied about the role of Tamilnadu in freedom struggle. You would remember, I think. Now let us come to the final lesson in history, social transformation in Tamilnadu, our state Tamilnadu. You must have studied in 9th standard Renaissance and Reformation. Renaissance means rebirth. And Tamil Renaissance, it means that there was the Tamil language, after the advent of the printing press was invented, so many Tamil books were published in Tamil language and others were able to read and appreciated the richness of the Tamil language. Now let us see Tamil Renaissance. Tamil language and culture played a significant role in their identity. Construction due to introduction of printing press, linguistic research. Advent of printing technology in 1578, Tamil book Thambiran Vanakkam was published from Goa. That was the first book. Thambiran Vanakkam was the first book that was translated in Tamil from Goa. You must have studied at a state, smallest state in India, Goa. There, next one, Thirukural, famous Thirukural book was also translated. Was one of the earliest Tamil literary texts to be published in 1812. This led the resurgence of interest among the Tamil scholars in publishing the more ancient Tamil classical around the period. Next, you must have studied about in Tamil class, you must have studied about the 5 epics, Silappathigaram, Manimegalai, Sivaga Sindhamani, Valayavadi, Kundalagesi. The same thing, this is also repeated in history. Now let us see, Tamil class, Damodaran collected and edited different palm leaf manuscripts of the Tamil grammar and literature. Earliest time you must study seen the Tamil Thiruvalluvar having the palm leaf. Ancient people, they used before the paper was invented, they used the palm leaf and using the nail. That they have written everything in that. After the printing press only, invention of paper only and invention of printing press, everything was published in the letter form. Now let us see, he collected. They included textbook in Tolkappiyam, Veerasoliyam, Iraiyanar Agapporul, and so many books. Next, Meenakshi Sundaranath took effort to publish the classical texts such as Sivaga Sindhamani, Padittrupattu, Silappathigaram, Purananaattupadai, Perumbaanaattupadai, and Manimegalai, etc. The publication of these ancient literature texts created an awareness among the Tamil people about their historical traditional languages, literature and religion. Modern Tamils founded their social and cultural identity on the ancient Tamil classic collectively called the Sangam literature. You must have studied about Sangam literature. Particularly our other district, Madurai, they conducted 3 Sangam. First Sangam, second Sangam, third Sangam. So they explained that this shows how the people, particularly the kings, supported their language, welfare for the Tamil language, and due to that they also, some poets got the many gifts and some people got the lands for their as a gift for their glorious Tamil languages. In 1816, F.E. Ellis, who founded the College of the Fort St. George, formulated the theory that the South Indian languages belong to a separate family which was unrelated to the Indo-Aryan family of the language. You must have studied about North India, South India. North India language, Sanskrit was mainly, on South Indian, Dravidian language, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Tulu, etc. You must have studied about Bharatiyar songs. So, Dravidian languages. Robert Caldwell expanded this argument in a book titled A Comparative Grammar of the Dravidian of South Indian Family of Languages. In 1856, he established the close affinity between the Dravidian languages in contrast with the Sanskrit and also established the antiquity of Tamil. Tamil intellectuals of this period identify the fundamental differences between Tamil, Dravidian, etc. Aryan Brahminism. They argued that Tamil was a language of Dravidian people who are non-Brahmin and their social life was casteless, gender, centricide and egalitarian. Tamil Renaissance contributed to the origin of the growth of Dravidian consciousness of the Tamil country. These ideas are compiled in Tamil innovation song by Manonmaniyam. You must know that morning prayer start Neerarum Kadalu, that song that is written by Manonmaniyam book by Sundaranar 1858 to 1897 is lifetime. Next, Ramalinga Adigal called Vallalar, he also complied Thiru Arupai with to study, already studied. Then Abraham Pandidar gave prominence to Tamil music and published books on the history of Tamil music. Subramania Bharatiya is the famous poet. Subramania Bharatiya, already last lesson we studied, he played, he composed songs which kindled the minds of the people. Particularly he composed patriotic songs and he gave the support for the women education, compulsory women education, importance of women education. Next, Bharatidasan, he admired, he loved Bharatiya and he renamed his name as Bharatidasan. So all these poets, they work for the welfare of the Tamil languages. Buddhism revival promoted communism and socialism to counter the colonial power. Pandita Ayodhidasar and Periyar E.V. Ramasamy 1879 to 1973 held high radical philosophy to define the rights of the social underprivileged and marginated section of the people. I might have studied about E.V. Periyar. He started the self-respect movement and he gave the importance for the women education. Next, Suryanarayan Sastri, another name is Paridimar Kalinya. V.C. Suryanarayan Sastri, 1870 to 1903, born near Madurai, was professor of Tamil at the Madras Christian College. He was one of the earliest scholars to identify the influence of Sanskrit on Tamil and adopted a pure Tamil name for himself. Paridimar Kalinyar. He was the first to argue that Tamil is a classical language and demanded that the University of Madras should not call Tamil a vernacular language influenced by Western literary models. He introduced the sonnet form in Tamil. He also wrote novels and plays and a number of essays on science. Tragically, he died at the age of 33. Next one, Maraimalai Adigal. Maraimalai Adigal is considered the father of Tamil linguistic purism and the founder of Tani Tamil Iyakkam, that means pure Tamil movement. He wrote commentaries on the Sangam text, Patinapalai and Mullai Pate. As a young man, he worked in a journal, Siddhanta Deepika. Later, he served as a Tamil teacher in Madras Christian College for many years. He was inclined towards non-Brahmin movement. His teachers such as P. Sundaranar and Somasundara Nayanar were key influence in his life. Then Tani Tamil Iyakkam. Pure Tamil movement. Maraimalai Adigal promoted the use of pure Tamil words and the removal of the Sanskrit influence from the Tamil language. The movement made a great impact on Tamil culture, especially in language and literature. His daughter Neelambikai played an important role in its foundation. He changed his own name, Vedachalam, and took on the pure Tamil name, Maraimalai Adigal. His journal, Gnanasangaram, was renamed Arivukudal, and his institution, Samarasa Sanmarka Sangam, was rechristened as Podinal Kalakam. Neelambikai compiled a dictionary that proved pure Tamil equivalent to Sanskrit words that had crept into Tamil vocabulary. So women also took part in this, in the improvement of the welfare of the Tamil language. Next, let us see rise of Dravidian movement. The Dravidian movement emerged as a defense of non-Brahmins against the Brahmin dominance. You must have studied Periyar Ramasamy. He worked for the welfare of because the Brahmins were very dominant. The other people were ill-treated, particularly downtrodden people were ill-treated. They were not allowed to enter into the temple. So Periyar took an expedition to Vaikam in Kerala and he fought for the people, downtrodden people, and so he is called as a Vaikam hero. Now let us see. In 1912, C. Nadesanar, a medical doctor, founded the Madras United League, later renamed as Madras Dravidian Association to support Dravidian uplift. The organization focused on educating and supporting non-Brahmin graduates and conducting regular meetings to share their grievances. Meanwhile, Nadesanar founded a hostel, the Dravidian Home at Triplicane in Madras, in July 1916 to address the lack of hostels for the non-Brahmin students, which hindered their educational development. In addition, the home had a literary society for the benefit of non-Brahmin students. So, non-Brahmin, there also the Brahmins and non-Brahmins were separated in some hostels, and Periyar got angry. So, he wanted to remove such evil practices. So, that's why he worked for the non-Brahmin movement. Then South Indian Liberal Federation, Justice Party. On 20th November 1916, around 30 prominent non-Brahmin leaders, including Dr. C. Nadesanar, Sir Pitti Tyarayar, T.M. Nair, and Alamelu Mangai, came together to form the South Indian Liberation Federation, SILF. In the meantime, at a meeting held in Victoria Public Hall, the non-Brahmin manifesto was released in December 1916. The manifesto articulated the voice of the non-Brahmin communities. The association started publishing 3 newspapers, Dravidian in Tamil, Justice in English, and Andhra Prakashika in Telugu, to propagate the ideals of the party. The first election under the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms was held in 1920 after the introduction of the diarchy form of government in province. The Justice Party won the election, formed the first ever Indian cabinet in Madras. A. Subbarayalu became the chief minister of the Madras presidency, and the party formed the government during 1920 and 23 to 1926. In the context of the Congress party boycotting the legislature, the Justice Party continued to remain in office till 1937 election were held. In 1937 elections, the Indian National Congress contested the elections for the first time and renounced the Justice Party. Program and activities. The Justice Party is the fountainhead of the non-Brahmin movement in the country. The Justice Party government widened the education and employment opportunities for the majority of the population and created space for them in the political sphere. The justices removed the legal hindrances restricting intercaste marriages and broke the barriers that prevented depressed classes from the use of public wells and tanks. The Justice Party government ordered that public school accommodated the children of the depressed classes. Hostels were established for the students belonging to his social group in 1923. In the meantime, the Madras legislature under the Justice Party government was the first to approve participation of women in the electoral politics in 1921. The resolution created space for women and thus facilitated Muthulakshmi Ammayar to become the first women legislator in India in 1926. You might have studied about Muthulakshmi. He was the first Indian who got the finished MBBS degree. She was born at Pudukkottai. The Justice Party worked towards the legislation provisions for communal representation, reservation for various communities. 2 communal government orders, 16 September 1921 and 15 August 1922, were passed to ensure equitable distribution to appointments among various castes and communities as a part of achieving social justice. The Justice Party rule established the Staff Selection Board in 1924 for the selection of government officials and encouraged all the communities to share the administrative powers. In 1929, the government of British India adopted the pattern and established the Public Service Commission. The Justice Party further concentrated on reforms religious institutions. The Justice Party introduced the Hindu Religious Endowment HRE Act in 1926 and enabled any individual, irrespective of their caste affiliation, to become a member of the temple committee and govern the resource of the religious institutions. Next one, self-respect movement. Suyamariyadai Iyakkam in Tamil. The self-respect movement advocated a casteless society devoid of rituals and differences based on birth. The movement declared rationality and self-respect as the birthright of all human beings and held these as more important than self-rule. The movement declared illiteracy as a source for women's subordination and promoted compulsory elementary education for all. The movement demanded women's emancipation, deplored superstitions, and emphasized rationality. The movement also advocated self-respect marriage. The self-respect movement championed not only the cause of the non-Brahmin Hindus but also that of the Muslims. The self-respect movement extolled the lofty principles of Islam such as equality and brotherhood. Now let us see the personality who started the self-respect movement, Periyar E.V.R. Periyar E.V. Ramasamy, 1879 to 1973, was the founder of the self-respect movement. He was the son of the wealthy businessman in Erode, Venkatappa and Chinnathayamal. Though possessing little formal education, he engaged the critical discussion with scholars who used to be patronized by his devout father. As a young man, he once ran away from home and spent many months in Varanasi. Varanasi is now known as the Kashi and other religious centers. The first-hand experience of Orthodox Hindu religion led to this disillusionment with religion. On his return, he took care of his family business for some years. His selfless public service and forthrightness made him a popular personality. He held different official positions of Erode that include the chairmanship of Municipal Council 1918 to 1919. As president of the Tamilnadu Congress Committee, Periyar proposed a resolution regarding the rights of untouchables. You must know untouchable is a sin. In book it is written in the first page. The lower caste people were denied access to the temples and the street surrounding the temple. In Vaikam, a town in the priestly state of Travancore in the present-day Kerala, people protested against this practice. In the initial stages, George Joseph of Madurai played a big role. After the local leaders were arrested, Periyar led the movement and was imprisoned. People hailed him as Vaikam Veerar or hero of Vaikam. In the meantime, he was disturbed by the caste-based discrimination in the dining hall at the Cheranma Devi Gurukulam. I told that Cheranma Devi Gurukulam, once Periyar visited there, the students were differentiated, Brahmins and non-Brahmin, and the separate classes were also circulated, and this affected the minds of Periyar. So he started this movement. Congress leader with the financial support of the Tamil Nadu Congress Committee, Periyar was disappointed when, despite his objection and protest against the discrimination, the Congress continued to support the linguistic practice in the Gurukulam. Now, who is called the Vaikam hero? Yes, Periyar. Why? He fought for the depressed class. The people at Vaikam in Kerala were not allowed to enter into the temple. So, such a terrible condition caused the minds of EVR. So, he led the movement.